Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, I've got an exciting new diorama to share with you guys today. This is a Star Wars one, as you can clearly see. This is a crashed AT-AT, one that's been like on a patrol near the shoreline, gets shot up with all these blast marks on it, and then falls over into the forest right on the shore and rots there for years. And you can see we got the rust on it and all that other kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun building this. This is the ATAT 2 that I used from the snow diorama that we built many years ago, mainly showing how the vehicle went together. But they're kind of tough to get a hold of right now, so I thought I would just recycle that one into a new diorama. And if you guys want to see the video of the actual ATAT being built, we'll have a link to it down below in there. So it was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's get started. We're starting off with 2 sheets of 10 by 14 of the pink insulation foam. We'll also have a little spare piece up here that we're going to make a taller part of the mountain. The ATAT is from our old diorama that we built many years ago. We've taken that off. We'll still have a little bit of the old snow on here, but we'll take all that off as well. It's basically going to be put into the side of the shoreline here. Possibility of leaving one of the legs sticking still up out of there as if it just fell over after it was, shot up and blown up. So with that being said, we can pull this off now. Take our hot cutting tool and begin to cut all of these pieces right off. Here is the steep shoreline that we came up with, and show you how that should fit in right into place there. Give you a little bit better idea. Now that we have all the pieces cut out, we can go ahead and glue all of them together using our Gorilla Glue. I am also, because this is going to be an alien planet, I've glued together some odd strips that we had of it, and they're just being glued together right now. We're going to create some spires and some interesting landscapes since this is supposed to be an alien planet. We now have all of our spires in place, as you can see right here, and I actually went ahead and put a few more in. I really liked the height that it gives the diorama. Now, we used a foaming Gorilla Glue, which is a water-activated glue, and when you do that, you have to put some heavy weight on stuff because it does create a foam and it can lift the item. So we put heavy weights to hold this piece and this piece down. When it came to putting the spires down, because there was no real way to get a lot of weight on there and you have to leave it for a few hours, I went ahead and used a hot glue gun and then just glued all these into place and then let the foam set up, and it did nicely. So there's a little bit of extra hot glue around here, but we're going to cover that with terrain anyway. And now that we have the terrain in place, can kind of give you an idea how the piece will sit in here. Just like that. I've also started, we're going to start tearing up the actual ATAT as well to give it some damage and stuff, and I was just playing around trying to put some hydraulic lines and stuff coming out as if the leg was ripped completely off. Now with that being done, we can start pouring up some plaster. Next, we're going to use some silicone molds of rocks, and we're going to use a little lightweight hydrocal plaster to go ahead and pour it in there. And we want to make some rock faces for those pillars as well as maybe for a few other areas. And I like to pour this a little bit thinner, or I should say mix it a little bit thinner, so it flows really well into all these little nooks and crannies here. And then we will go ahead and vibrate this quite a bit too to try to get most of the air bubbles out of here as well. And I don't want to pour this one too thick because these are going to be like rock faces. Once that gets done, you can see these we've poured already here, and we just pop them right out of the mold carefully after they've dried, and we have some nice rock faces to go on the front of those pillars. And once that dries, you can pop these out. This is a different one, but it's also got some really nice rock faces. And carefully, since we did pour it very thin, pop it right out of the mold here. And there we go. We've got some nice rock faces that we can break them up and then apply them once we actually put all of the plaster onto the actual diorama base. First thing we want to do is cover all sides of the foam with masking tape. This will protect all of the sides on there too, and keep any plaster that spills over will come off much easier. And we're going to use our Sculptamold, which is a cellulose type plaster. Now that we've mixed up the plaster, we can go ahead and just start smoothing it into place. Now we can take up some of our pieces of our rock mold and start breaking those up to kind of fill in these little areas. And then we can just smooth all around the edges to blend it together. Okay, we're going to do a little bit more damage onto the ATAT to make it look like it was in a pretty good fight. We've already seen we've put 2 blast marks through, and we're using our foam cutter on here now and just poking holes through it here. Also want to damage this piece up pretty badly too, because this is going to be the spot where it took the blast marks that made it actually rip the leg right off. So we're going to do a lot of damage down to the legs. We've also smashed all this portion of it in here too to make this front leg kind of collapse, to make it give it the appearance that it's been sitting there for a while. So just getting this nice and hot, and then we can just poke some blast marks right on through, just like that, and then kind of, and we clean them up with an X-Acto knife after we're done, but we want to give it the effect of blasting right on through. Okay, more coats of streaking grime and rust and black panel liner and all kinds of other types of dirt effects to build this up to get it a real dirty look to it here. And I'm thinking I am going to decide to actually have this leg crash down. Still have the wiring and stuff coming out of it, as you see right down here, but I kind of like the effect that the leg broke and then fell on top of itself there. So I'm going to continue to keep weathering this portion up, and then we can go start working on. We now want to add a black wash to our lighter gray here, and that is just a mixture of about 8 parts thinner to 2 parts black paint. And of course, with everything, this is going to dry different than what it looks like when it's actually wet here. This is going to pick out all the highlights and get them sticking right out. Now, using a mixture of different types of light gray, we're going to go over it and highlight some of the edges of the stone to give it some dimension. Okay, you just watched me put on a couple different colors of browns and some tans to blend in the earth right here. And the reason we put that on top of the earth undercoat is the earth undercoat is good because it soaks into the plaster really well and prevents chipping. If you are just going to put the Tamiya paint only on top of it, it is very easy to chip this plaster. Now, with all of this dry, we can now go ahead and put some terrain underneath here. And I wouldn't normally put the terrain on yet, but we have to put the ATAT in place and then pour the water later. So we want some terrain underneath the ATAT, and then we'll put more of it around it once we get it set up. So I'm going to go ahead and take some Mod Podge, and we're going to brush the flat version on it, and we're going to brush all the areas in through here. And we're going to use kind of a really small type of bush basically in this scale, and we're going to use some super leaf and put all that in through here, and I'll show you how that goes on right now. all of the undergrowth now dry, we can go ahead and place the ATAT in its correct position, and then we're going to use hot glue to attach it down so it doesn't float up when we put the water in it. You'll also notice too we've created a complete dam around the entire water area so we can fill that with water, and we'll definitely want to put a little bit of hot glue on the bottom of each one of these legs to keep them from rising up as well. Now, I mentioned this is the undergrowth because we actually plan on putting a bunch of trees in this area, and here's one of them that I have built up already, and we'll fill this whole area with trees probably growing up and around. Okay, the water is now dry, and I'm going along and just putting a little bit of a pigment powder to create kind of a beach right around the edge, right around here. And once that is done, we're going to go ahead and use Mod Podge gloss, and we're going to start putting some waves in here. You'll also notice too we did a little bit more weathering on the vehicle. Now that we know what the water line is actually going to be, we can start weathering up to that water line and putting more rust and things on that. And then once we're done with the water and that's fully dry, we'll be able to go ahead and start putting the rest of the trees that I've started to assemble. Okay, we're just putting the last little bit of trees into place, including some of the little trees and vines that we want to make it look like it's growing up through the ATAT, that it's been there for a while. You can also see that the white is starting to finally clear up to make the little wave patterns. And I'm just going to put a few more little trees around in there, and then we're going to work on cleaning up the base. I'm using an acrylic a wave effect basically on the side here, and that's just to make it a little brighter on the side. It always looks a little bit dull, I noticed, when you use just the regular resin water in dark, and you can see it's starting to dry on the side. Well, here we are. Here is our completed model. I had a lot of fun with this, and I think it looks really good with the ATAT crashed into the trees, sitting rotting away there for many years. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I want to thank you guys for watching. And please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.